Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we are focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLucio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, today my guest is William Hollingworth. William is an Army veteran, and he and his wife, Jessica, are the authors of the book All 48 Drive Your Dreams, which is a story of how they started off as struggling young parents and overcame the obstacles that came along with that. They now use their book to reach other people wanting to pursue their goals and their dreams. So welcome to the show, William. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Hey, thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate being here. It's an honor for me. So essentially our story is it's kind of, I always feel a little corny saying it, but it's a self-help and somewhat inspirational guide story where we started off as teen parents, only 16 years old, bringing a child into the world, trying to just struggle to make ends meet and finish high school. From there, I ended up joining the military, the United States Army, as a medic from 2012 to 2016. I deployed from 2014 to 2015. Got out with, as everyone does, with a plan of how I'm going to kick ass once my term's over and no one's telling me what to do anymore. And when I got out, I found myself in kind of a stagnant place in life. I think a lot of veterans face that. You're using your GI Bill to go to school, but things aren't as the path's not as clear as you think they are. And I ended up, kind of where most people do, where you look around, you're like, nothing's really going on for me like I thought. And this is kind of where the stagnant place gave me a opportunity to try to launch a change. Me and my wife started traveling, just low budget road trip traveling. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any kind of guide. We didn't have anyone to really lean on for it. And next thing we know, we're making these long drives from Texas, where we live, San Antonio, all the way down to California and coming back. And we do this one journey and realize it's changed us, and it's something kind of neat. And this was the stepping stone to kind of getting my life on a whole new path, literally and figuratively, where we started doing these long road trips and seeing the world and experiencing different cultures. And it compounded into something that helped lead us towards success and lead us towards having just a better drive for life and a bigger goal. From there, I ended up finishing 2 degrees, and we, pushed forward and gaining better positions, traveling internationally. At the end of it, none of it was ever with the intention to write a book or market anything. It ended up being just part of our identity and something bigger. And now we have a mission after we drove the entire 48 connected states and traveled internationally a little bit. It's become a platform we use to reach other people and communities, children in high school that are facing, the same things as teenagers wanting to do something bigger, local libraries and events where we're helping other people start traveling and start driving their dreams to their own extent, whether it's big or small. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and speak today, because I think there's a lot of veterans out there that are in the same place I found myself when I got out. And it's something we're really passionate about, and we're really looking forward to growing it and keep pushing it forward.
Yeah, and there probably are quite a few veterans who are out there who faced a similar transition out of the military, trying to figure out what to do, what's that next step. And they start off with a plan, and like all plans, especially in the military, they sometimes just go straight down the tubes, and you end up starting over. So it's and it's difficult to figure out exactly what to do at that point. So but then your story, looking back, where your story kind of began, I'm thinking about my own life. So my wife and I didn't have our first child until I was 27 and she was 28. But you were pretty young parents, 16.
Yeah.
that's, I mean, incredibly young for parents. And knowing myself at that age, I was pretty young, dumb, immature, in which I think a lot of kids at that age are. But
Yeah.
I gotta imagine that becoming a parent at such a young age must have changed you, made you grow up pretty quickly, and get pretty mature pretty fast, because now all of a sudden you're responsible for this whole other person. And so how did that becoming a parent change you and affect you and your wife as your young teenagers?
Yeah, it was a massive impact. In fact, I was planning on joining the Marine Corps. I was already talking to the recruiter on my 17th birthday. I already had it set up with them that they were going to come talk to my parents to try to sign me in early so I could go for the summer before my senior year and then come back as a senior and then go right into the Marines. Um, and all I really thought about was me. I felt invincible because as long as I could get myself through something, nothing else really mattered. And I didn't take school seriously because I knew I was going to join the military one way or the other. I didn't come from a military family. It's just something I've always been attracted to. And once Jessica was pregnant, the whole world opened up, and I realized it wasn't about me anymore. You know what I mean? You're accountable for somebody, and it makes you feel mortal. Like all of a sudden you understand that like you have to make an income, you have to take school serious, you have to do stuff. And so it 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 tends to make or break a lot of people. But if you can take that and adjust to it, I was able to use it as a focal point where now I have a much bigger goal than something I ever imagined, just more than myself and my self image. You know what I mean? There's another two other lives depending on me. And so we were terrified, of course, but luckily Jessica's good at looking into programs, and we found a local program at a high school nearby where you can actually do all your credits online and graduate early. So now instead of a dropout, I could be an early graduate. And I went from not taking school seriously at all to spending every minute, every hour getting to school early, every moment I had that I wasn't going to work because you got to make money, just burning through my credits. And I actually ended up graduating at 16. And that was a good moment for me because then I went from that to working full time and really looking at what kind of military career I wanted. The Marine Corps is excellent branch, but you hear the term a lot, Marines first. You know what I mean? You're married to the Marine Corps, which I understand. In this case, though, now that I had Colt and Jessica, I knew I wanted to put them first. And so I started looking at my options. The Air Force was, of course, an option. I had a pretty good ASVAB score, but I still had that burn to be more of a boots on the ground soldier. And so now I'm talking to my parents about branch options. And it's funny because here I am working full time, graduated with a kid, and Jessica's older than me. But they have to go with me to the recruiter and sign the papers for me to join the Army. And I had to pick something that they felt I could use outside the military. And so I always thought medics were awesome. And so signed up to be a 68 whiskey. And then I'm talking to the recruiter. I'm like, man, what should I do? I want to get married because I want to bring them with me. Like they're my whole world. But should I get married now? Should I wait till after basic? And he's like, your chances aren't good. You might as well just get married now, man. You'll make more money in basic. And so I was like, okay. So then here I am, Jessica's 18. We're at the courthouse to get our marriage license. She's old enough to take herself, but my parents had to go with me. So they're there signing paperwork for me to join the Army, signing paperwork for me to get married, signing all this. So it's weird because I feel like a little kid, even though I'm also trying to be an adult at the same time.
Right.
But I think that was a good reality check for my ego to know that I need to take things more serious, be more responsible in life. And that started me on a much more dedicated path when I joined the military.
Yeah. I can only imagine what that would be like, standing in the courthouse with your parents having to sign the paperwork, and also having your parents sign the paperwork for you to be able to join the military and everything else, and go
And a
through all
baby
that
there.
process with a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're in a position that I would imagine very few of your peers were in at that same point, going through all of that stuff, trying to figure out whether or not you should get married or join the military or any of that stuff, plus having a child with you as well. That's kind of a unique circumstance, I think, uh,
Yeah.
to to be in. Maybe it's not. Maybe I just don't know that many people who were in that
I hope
circumstance.
it
But
is.
yeah, I hope so too, because that's a lot for a young kid to be um, put through all at that same time, and dealing with all that stuff. Um,
Absolutely.
so you talked a little bit about your transition out of the military um, when you got out. You thought you had a plan, and that kind of went down the tube. So what happened there, and what kind of uh, got you back on track?
Yeah, as they all tend to do, Murphy's Law, right? So my
Yeah.
plan was the military actually did a very good job of setting me up for success. It took a little bit of fighting with my chain of command, but they sent me into a program called Shifting Gears. Fort Hood, where I was stationed, has a lot of good out transitioning programs, and this one helped you go through a service technician school to start off as a service tech. Now I did that, and I had a job, but personal family issues came up, and where I ended up being kind of helping my parents manage their properties and helping them really push their goal forward on that. And with that, I kind of dropped the ball on my drive. I was going to school, but I was going to school online, and I was working for my parents, so I didn't really have an actual job. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of money here and there for taking care of things. And before I know it, I'm telling myself I'm doing big things like in hobbies and such. But before I know it, 4 or 5 months go by, and I still don't have a job. And and I'm just going to school online, taking the minimum amount of courses like most of us do for the BAH. And I was working on a really big project, running new fencing at a ranch, and Jessica, in fact, was kind of like pushing herself to do something bigger, and she was going to school for phlebotomy certification. Uh, she finished school, and she was scheduled to get a job in like 2 weeks, and so she was also in a position, no work. I kind of have no work, and so she was out helping me on this ranch, and we finished the fence, and I look up and I look around, and I was like, man, I just feel like I should be doing something, like anything, something more than what's going on right now. I just feel like I don't know what happened, but I had all these big plans when I was transitioning that last year. I was talking to everyone in my unit, and now look at me. I'm just, I'm standing here. I got nothing on my schedule, nothing on my plate. And I looked at her and I was like, let's go somewhere. And she's like, really? Like where? And I was like, I don't know. Let's do something. There's got to be something we can do. Let's just go somewhere. And since we live here in Texas, we're not landlocked. What a lot of us do is we go down to the beach like 2 or 3 times a year for like a weekend. And she's like, you want to go like to the coast? It's like, no, let's do something bigger. Let's do something crazy. Let's go to California. And she was like, California? And I was like, yeah, I get, like, I'm saying it, I'm not even believing it. I'm like, yeah, let's go to California. And she's like, how? And I was like, I don't know. We don't have a lot of money. We have credit cards, you know what I mean? Like, let's just rent a car and go. And I was like, you don't have work for the next, week and a half. All I have is school online. I can do that with my laptop. Like, let's just do something. And so we had old iPhones, she Google's the cheapest place with unlimited miles, and we get a car from Enterprise, and we reach out to my mom, see if she wanted to watch Cult for the week or if we were going to take them with us. We had no clue what we were doing. She's a great grandma, so she did. And next thing you know, we're in a car that day, and we're just driving towards California. We have no idea what we're doing. We don't really have much of a budget. We don't know where we're going. And it from there is where everything, just taking that first step towards something that appealed to us, something that, kind of drove our motivation. That's where everything turned around. We didn't know it yet, but that's where everything began.
It was kind of just on a whim. You decided to just hop in the car, find a place to go, and just go. It wasn't a pre-planned thing or anything that you had in the back of your mind, you just decided to go, right?
Absolutely. If you would have told me the day before I was going to California, I'm like, you're crazy. I'm fixing a fence tomorrow and I'm going to MMA class. Like that's, I don't know what you're talking about. There'd be no way I would know. And
Right.
on our way there, we had no direction or anything other than west. And and we're driving and we're asking each other questions. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna stop anywhere? Like how much are we gonna spend? We don't have money, you know. We don't even technically have real jobs at this point. And it's like, man, where's this going to go? What are we going to do? And so we're talking about it. We're talking about it. And Texas is so big that by the time we left, it's probably like 2 p.m. And so at this point, we're like 6 hours in. We're still in Texas. Um, and I was like, I don't know. But, we're pitching ideas back and forth, like a couple cool places we heard of. And she's like, I don't know, but I'm hungry. Let's pull over and stop somewhere. And I was like, okay, well, we're about to leave Texas. So here we have a franchise called Whataburger. And I was like, let's get Whataburger. We're not gonna have it the rest of the trip, so let's just get it now. And then it clicked to me like, wait, we have like exclusive stops, like food chains here. I wonder if everywhere else has exclusive food chains, like for each state. And so she starts Googling because I'm driving. She's Googling. She's like, oh my gosh, everywhere has something. You know what I mean? Of course, everyone knows California has In-N-Out and stuff like that. And it's pretty much expanded farther, but everywhere has something. So we're making this list like we could go through these states and that's already a stop right there. But if we use that mentality, that means we should stop in every state for something, not just food, but some kind of like attraction everywhere. Of course, San Antonio's got like the Alamo. Every major city has something that stands out. And so it clicks to us like we can build a list. So we start building this list of a stop in every state for both the state and their food franchise, just something small. As well as we're like, well, we're going to California this way, but what if we came back a different route and now we get more states on this trip? That could work. You know what I mean? Like that's way cooler. And so now we're driving and all of a sudden this idea just starts going from crazy and directionless to crazy, but at least with, it's compounding into something very quickly within the course of this drive. So next thing you know, we have right next to Texas, New Mexico, and then Arizona, you have Tombstone, which famous cowboy movie, of course, cool. And then into California, you have Los Angeles, San Francisco, up into Nevada, where there's Vegas, but we're broke, so you can't do that. Through the mountains of Nevada, into Utah, Salt Lake City, and the mountains of Orem, back down into the Grand Canyon, and so on. And we're making this giant route with all of these different stops, and a lot of them are actually free because they're national parks or they're historical, historical stops. And we, on the course of this trip, we're in a car together getting all this life experience all of a sudden. You know what I mean? We're just, it's me and my wife, and of course, each other. We've been married for 5 years at this point, but you're really getting to know each other. You know what I mean? And in a car on this journey, and you're getting to experience all these new things and get new ideas and grow as people together. And we do this trip. We actually got to see a couple of military buddies along the way because I was hitting up people that told me like, oh yeah, I'm from Utah, this and that, seeing if they're back there now. I could tell as I'm meeting them, some of them are doing great. Some of them are exactly where I'm at in life, as I'm coming across them. And when we get back from this trip at the very end, we're the very last night we were staying with some military buddies back at Fort Hood because we had to pass through on our way back to San Antonio. And I'm telling them about it, and it kind of finally hits me that like we just grew a lot. Like it's weird that was a week, but a lot changed for us. The way we saw things, the way we experienced people, the way we experienced the world, and grew together. Like that was something. That was something different. That similar to how people go to basic training and it's 2 months, 3 months, whatever you're in, and you come out and it's like the world. You came out of a time capsule. You know what I mean? Like totally different person than one you went in. It was just like that, and it was so bizarre. I didn't expect that. And now we're much more experienced. We did something exciting. And I was like, we need to do that again. And we need to do that again as soon as we can realistically do it. Because that wasn't realistic, right? We did it, but
Right.
like I don't expect people to do that. I was like, we need to do that again as soon as we can realistically do it. and it really set the launch pad for the future trips. And as you see, there's 4 trips total to do the, if you wanted to do the entire 48 connected states the same way we did. Of course, we're from Texas, so depending on where you're at, your route would be a little different, but you see a major difference from when we do our very first trip to the time in between, when we do the second trip, the time in between, third trip, time in between, and then when we finish, who we are as people, how we're driven, how we think, you know what I mean, how we experience things. It's incredible how there's stark changes and growth between and after each trip. And it was just, it was an amazing experience. And I'd like to get into those trips also. But as we went through these, we're telling people, and in the beginning, after the first trip, no one thought it was a good idea. People were like, don't do that again. No one wants to do that. Like, that was a terrible idea. Maybe go fly somewhere for a week, enjoy vacation like that. And we were like, man, you just don't understand. Like, there's something significant to this. If people feel the drive to do this, it's something I highly recommend. And after the second trip, though, people took it a little serious, because on the second trip, we went up into Canada and New York, and then east to Portland, Maine, and then came back a different route. So we added like 20 something trips or states in a single trip. And people took it a little serious. Some people thought it was cool. Some people were like reaching out, like, oh, that's neat. Like, you got any traveling advice, this, and this? And again, a huge change in our personality and who we are as people and how we conduct ourselves after the second travel. And there's roughly a year between each vacation because we're getting better at jobs. We're getting better with our academics. We're getting better with structure and budgeting. And then after the third trip, we just went to Florida, east into the Carolinas, Florida, and back. Now people are taking us really seriously. Like, wow, y'all are travelers. You know what I mean? Y'all do this and that. Like, y'all should make an Instagram page, whatnot. I was like, no, like, no one really cares that much. I'm just trying to like do something that I'm passionate about. And then before you know it, we get a couple international travel opportunities, and I take them. And I complete my college degree. We get better jobs, and then we do our fourth and final journey. People were looking forward to it. People were rooting for us. We do this fourth travel all the way up into through Illinois, Minnesota, North Dakota, west to Washington, back down into Yellowstone, and back down to Texas. And we've knocked out the 48 states. And at that point was when we were on the way back, and it hit me that maybe this is something a little bigger than just driving for fun. Maybe this has become something that I could do more with. And that's when it occurred that, man, this could be something. This could help people. This could be something people are actually interested in. Maybe not all 48, maybe not the exact way, but the way this changed me and helped pull me out of a kind of a stagnant place, maybe this is something I could do that other people would be interested in too. This is something I've done that a lot of people haven't, of course. And so that's when I was like, this could be a book. It could be a book. It could be, a social media page. We could help people. We could reach out to people. And it went from there. It blew up from there. And we just hit 1 year of our last finishing the 48 states, because that happened in 2020. And so now it's become this platform for reaching out to people. This platform, especially veterans, where we try to help people drive their own dreams, whether it's big or small, whether it's a big trip, a giant road trip, or just something small like taking your family down to the beach, just whatever it is. We have become just a platform for people to reach out to and assist them.
Yeah, and I want to talk about how the book came about. And I also realized that the travel probably, especially the last trip, probably got impacted a little bit with the way the country kind of locked down. You said it ended in 2020 and everything. It probably made travel a little bit more difficult, although driving is probably a little bit easier than flying, especially during that time period. So you probably were still able to do some things, especially if you're going to outdoor type things like parks and things like that, where you still could get out and enjoy that kind of stuff. But some of the other stuff that you may have wanted to see along the way probably didn't go exactly as you probably had
Yeah.
anticipated. But so so what is the book all about, and how is your journey through all these 48 states helping other people?
Yeah. So the book is very similar format to how we started the introduction. It begins where I was as a scared teenage parent, just not knowing where to go. It goes into my military life very briefly. I wasn't really trying to make it a military book. I wanted to really focus on people getting out there and taking that first step. It goes into where I was after the military and how my feelings of I just didn't have much direction, and it's so easy to get there and then stay there. And then I was in the same place I think most people, a lot of my friends, a lot of my fellow veterans find themselves in, and how I took that first step towards something bigger. And once that's all pretty much within the first chapter. Then it starts on the road trip format, how we're just going for that California trip with, nothing really, uh, no major goal in mind. And we go into that California trip. It goes through each stop, each state very quickly. Um, and it gives all the routes, all the stops, the budget, like what it ended up costing us for each one. We did the very first trip all the way to California and back through different states. It's like 12 states total for like $600. So pretty low budget for two people. Um, and then it comes back in and it takes a chapter to sit and reflect on the impact it made and the differences it made. And at the time, outside of direct friends and direct family, no one else like no one thought that was a great idea. Kind of understandably so. It is a little crazy. Then it goes to how we grew in the time between, how I ended up getting a job back in the medical field and closer to finishing my degree. And Jessica also got a job in the medical field, into the second journey where we're going up to New York and into Canada and then east to Portland, Maine. It goes through, how Colt's developing along the way. Of course, he goes with us on the second trip. The first trip, he's still pretty small and he stays with my mom. Now we're doing things right. We're doing it as a family. We have a plan. We have rest stops to stop at night. We have some budget money saved up. We have a better rental car instead of a little Ford Fiesta where our knees have to hurt all day, every day. And then when we come back, it's that reconfirmation of having a goal that we held on to a full year, because we did the very first trip right after I got in the military in 2017. And the next one takes place in 2018. And so like you're seeing this very stark growth because you have everything condensed into a chapter a year. And when I finished my bachelor's degree on the second trip, we come back, I get a couple opportunities to go international for work. So I could go to Brazil and stuff like that. And when I come back, I finally get a job in the medical field where I had worked to get back into. And now I have my health administration degree. I get a health administrator job. And I get there and I realize I don't even like this that much. I did all this college work and because I felt like I was supposed to. Now I'm doing it and this doesn't even feel like my calling. Like being a medic and being a health administrator is totally different. So it goes through another thing I feel a lot of people feel conflicted with, and I've seen it personally, where you go to school for something you think you should have went to school for, and then you finish and maybe that wasn't the right fit for you, and you have to find another avenue in life. And it goes through that portion of my life, and me figuring out what I wanted to do, identifying myself more, and being that I've been doing these journeys where I'm willing to travel, I'm willing to set a goal and work towards it. That really helped me with also my career, post military career, finding my calling, finding what I liked, what I was into, and being willing to take another journey to get to that position as well.
Yeah, and one of the things with travel, uh, that I've noticed, and you briefly mentioned this earlier, uh, when you go to basic training, you're thrown into a group of people from all over the country, from all over the place, different backgrounds, different lifestyles that they came from, different everything. It's a big mixture of people from all over the country, and um, it's eye opening to be with all those people who have all these experiences, or lack of experiences, where maybe they never left their hometown and until
Yeah.
they went to basic training. And I remember we had a few guys who were from the Northwest in our basic training unit, and they had never seen fireflies before. And when we were out in Georgia, and we were at Fort Benning, Georgia, we're out in the woods at night, and there's all these little lights lighting up, these little fireflies lighting up, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And it's just different things that you experience along the way, and you start to realize that the world is bigger than just whatever it is in your hometown, and that there's more to life, there's more to experience out there. And the more you travel, the more you realize that. And so I could imagine how these trips that you were taking started to open up your eyes, especially if you hadn't traveled to some of these places before. It starts to open your eyes to, uh, oh wow, there's actually desert, in certain parts of the country. And it's like, I grew up in the Northeast in Connecticut, and I live out in Arizona now, and you come out here, and it's like a completely different, you're almost on a different planet with
Yeah.
the different change in weather, and everything like that. The climate's just so different. But um it's just something that opens up your eyes as you're traveling. And I imagine that that's probably something that you experience as well, is all these new experiences that kind of open up your eyes to the world around you. Okay.
Yeah, you come back. It's like stepping in a time capsule where you come back from. Of course, the world still moved, but you've come back from a spot, and everyone's pretty much the same where you left them. Just like basic training. Like you go to
Yeah.
basic training for a few months, you come back. Everyone's pretty much in the same position because a few months at home is not really much of a difference. But you come back and you feel like life's accelerated. Like all these new experiences you never had, all these new people you met from different networks that integrated themselves into you a little bit, and the same thing happens, and it's just mind blowing when you do it. You can't tell till you get back, and then you see it. It's like you live in black and white, now you can see it in color. And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that on all of them, especially the first trip, because it was the first time we ever did it, and then when we came back through the the third trip, or sorry, second, because that was another big one. I guess in the last one too, because that's when I realized it could be a book, it could be a platform, it could be something to reach out to people with. But yeah, it really is incredible. And you see it as you're driving through, you see it on both sides. You go places and it seems almost like their state or their city or just their biome is kind of stuck in the past a little bit. The way the people react, the way the people look at you, the way just the place is built. And then you go to, other places that are extremely modernized and diverse, like San Francisco, California, New York City, New York, Miami, Florida, things like that. Since I live in San Antonio, it's pretty it's a pretty diverse location as it is now. Um, but but still, like just the impact and the difference and the things you see. And then as I was going through and I'm meeting other veterans that I served with, and some of them are doing great, some of them are doing better than me, some of them are doing worse than they've ever been. And you see so many different walks of life, you know what I mean? And that's something that just, yeah, just like basic training, everything else, it really puts it in a bubble for you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, someone picks up a copy of your book, and reads it. How is it that that your message is going to help them with their own journey and their own path in life?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really believe it will. And I'll tell you what, the first five people that reached to me saying that they heard about me through the Drive On podcast, I'll send you a free book. You don't have to buy it. I'll more than happily, as long as you have a mailing address you're comfortable with, I'll mail it out to you. Big thanks to Scott for having me on here. But as far as the book, you're going to see a lot of vulnerability You're going to see a lot of articulated thoughts on being lost from me. You're going to see a lot of things on how someone who wasn't sure of themselves, someone who didn't have much going, someone who very inexperienced in life, very young in life, has a lot of reasons to not do something, a lot of excuses to not take that first step. You're going to see how I pushed into something bigger, and then how once you do it, once you take that first step, how anyone can do it. And I hope everyone that feels the calling will do it. In the book, there's a complete guide. There's maps on the trips we took. There's the budget. There's the stops, all put in there for you. You could literally emulate the same exact thing. You could also follow us on our Instagram page. It's all there. If you can't buy the book right now or something, please, by all means, reach out to us on the Instagram page. I'm not going to try to pressure you into the book. I'm not going to ask you if you bought the book. We have the same maps. We have the same formula. It's all there. I believe in it so much. We're actually in 3 libraries. We've won a couple book awards. We're working on a deal with the San Antonio Library to get put into 16 more libraries in 2 local schools. I believe this is something that could call out to a lot of people and give them a template, a map, and also a lot of common feelings I think a lot of people face. Veterans, young people who just couldn't ever pull the trigger on making that trip. I had an aunt who she talked about wanting to go to Graceland her entire life, but it kept getting put off to next year, or later this summer or whatever, and it got put off. And she spent her entire life, never made it out of Texas. But it was such a big deal. Everyone knew that was a big goal for her, making Graceland. And when I got to Graceland on the second trip, we made it there in right over 24 hours. I remember getting there and just feeling a little bit sad and remorseful that for her and a lot of people like that are in that position, because it's something so easy to do if you have just some guidance on how to do it. And we didn't have any guidance. We were just going with our gut and going with our own personal research. But I really hope this is something that gives people that guidance. And like I said, you can find all the maps, all the budgets, all the pictures on the Instagram page, all 48 and beyond. We have over 2,000 followers right now, so we have a big network. But if you message me, I will gladly get back to you. If you can't reach me on all 48 and beyond, we have hollingworthtravels@gmail.com. You can just email me. I'll send you everything personally. I'm not going to ask you to buy the book. I'm not going to make you. I just want to reach people, and I just want to help you take that first step.
And one of the things that you just said that hit me, it was pretty impactful to me when you said this, was just how easy it is to reach certain goals. And some people go their whole lives with this goal. They want to get to Graceland, for example, and it's one day away. Like, you can get in the car and you could drive for
Yes.
a day, probably with some stops in between, because it's long distance and everything, but you could be there in a day and your goal will be met. Your dream will be there. And then some people just go their whole lives not realizing just how close some of these goals are, and they don't even try, and they don't make it there. And when you live your whole life, when you get towards the end of your life and you're looking back at all the things that you coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever, you don't want to let those things just be those regrets that you have in life. At least give it a try, right?
You're right. And to me, if you do it with one thing, it gets easy to do it with 2 things. And the next thing you know, you're doing it with everything. And it haunted me when I got there, when we were walking out, we got out of the car and we're walking up the concrete path to the entrance. It hit me and I was like, man, this was almost me when I was without a job, standing there, after the military. This could have been me. And this was someone I was related to for her whole life. And she lived a long life. It was a day away. Everyone knew that this was a big goal for her, and it was a day away, and it never happened. And I was like, man, if this happened to me, if it happened to her and it almost happened to me, this could be happening to a lot of people. This could be happening to my son. That's why I'm really glad he's with us. He got to do a lot of these things. I'm hoping that's an example for him moving forward, that he can do anything. I just don't want that to happen to anybody. I will send anyone any advice. We've even taken people on trips here in Texas, people that are nearby, like, hey, we're going down here. Like, if you want to come, we'll pay for all you got to pay for is your own food. We'll pay for everything else. Like, we'll drive you there. We've linked up with people. We've had people that reach out to us from, let's see here, Rome, Australia, in England so far that are planning on coming to the United States and have somehow caught wind of the page or the book. And they're wanting like advice to just now they're wanting to make that big trip here and see stuff. And even though they're not going to see all 48 states, they're going to go to one state, but we can recommend, talk to them about it. And that's all I want, especially from our veterans. It's a very important soft spot in my heart that people that get out of the military can drive those dreams and do those big things. Because if you can push forward with one simple thing, for us, it was just getting on a road trip. You'll see how it compounds into everyday life.
Yeah, definitely. And those little things, it may not seem like that big of a thing just to get in the car and drive for a day or two, whatever. But it shows you that these things are possible and that there's other stuff out there beyond your hometown or the small area that you grew up in or whatever. I know when my wife and I, with our kids, when we moved from Connecticut to Arizona, we drove from the East Coast all the way out here to Arizona, and it was a different way of traveling. We always flew all over the place and everything, but we wanted to drive out here, and we got the opportunity to see certain parts of the country that we never would have seen. Those flyover states that they talk about. They just look like grids on the ground as you're flying over, but there's actual stuff there, and it's kind of neat to see. A lot of it we saw from the highway, so we didn't really get to experience a ton of it, but because we were on a timeline, we had to get there by a certain time, but it was still interesting to see the places that we did stop. We got to experience some of the stuff that we never would have taken a trip to certain parts of the country, just because that we wouldn't have done that, and so we end up getting to see certain parts of the country and experience different things, and it was a pretty good experience. And I think I know my wife and I, my kids were pretty young at the time, so they may not necessarily remember it, but my wife and I will remember that forever, and it's going to be something that we take with us, for years and years to come. So
yeah, there's so many hidden wonders and just the personal growth each place impacts you on, and like you said, you won't ever forget it. Especially now you can have photos and make like travel log, but you'll never forget it. It's going to be a crazy impact. I always thought people always say travel. And I was like, well, I mean, that's cool, but what do you have to show for it? You'll see it. Like, you'll see it inside yourself. You'll see the difference when you do things like this. It's a big deal. And one thing I've noticed, it helps. Well, it's not an instant cure for things like depression or, being stagnant. I don't think there's any instant cure. It's a really good first step when you travel and when you hit those goals towards being driven towards something, being focused, being positive, growing yourself internally, and experiencing culture. And all those things are good platforms and good foundations for helping you overcome things as a person and helping you have a higher focus as a person. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and then after they make it happen, no one's ever done it and then told me they regretted it. Everyone does it, and it makes it plants seeds that are going to come to fruition throughout your life.
That's a great way to put it. And I think with that, we don't want to give away all of the tidbits in the book either. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you on this episode. But where can people go to get a copy of the book and follow you online? I know you mentioned your Instagram. Is there anywhere else?
Yeah, so Instagram's the only major social media platform, only because I want to make sure I can respond to everyone who reaches out. And it just gets a little difficult as you stretch yourself thin. If you don't have an Instagram, you can reach out to us on hollingworthtravels@gmail.com. I'll get back to you right away. As far as getting the book, we're on a lot of platforms. We're on Amazon Kindle, Kobo, Target. You can go through Google. Barnes and Noble, Book Baby, and then we're even international. But there's a link tree that'll be linked below. If you click that, it puts everything on one simple page for everyone, whether it's buying the book, accessing Instagram, accessing our email, seeing other podcasts and other interviews. It'll all be there. This drive on will be posted there. And so all of that's in one easy click for y'all. By all means, reach out. And if you reach out saying you're from the Drive On podcast, I'll send the first 5 people free copies. I'll mail. Don't even pay shipping. I'll pay for the shipping, mail it out to you. I would give more, but we got libraries and stuff. We got to put somewhere. But
that's more than generous that you're willing to do that. So anyone who is looking to grab a copy of the book, definitely reach out, and that's a very generous offer. We really do appreciate that you are doing that and sharing your work with everybody. I think that's definitely incredible. So thank you again for your time, for coming on the show, sharing your story and your journey. And I really do appreciate the insights, and looking forward to hear more about your travels and your journeys. If you have other trips coming up and everything, I'll be following along and keeping an eye on that as time goes on too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. I can't wait to finish The Surviving Son. Thank you for having me on. And we're still traveling. We're still updating stuff. We got Disney World booked in a month and a half, and Alaskan cruise, all kinds of exciting stuff, people. And if people want to reach out to us, we're happy to host them, happy to give them pointers, whatever they want. So thank you so much for having me, and keep driving your dreams, everyone, and keep driving on.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to check out more episodes or learn more about the show, you can visit our website, driveonpodcast.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Drive On Podcast.